Today is Tuesday the 9th of December. It's a big day. It's a big day in all of our lives. Mark it on your calendars. A milestone has been hit for me personally, but we're all gonna share in it. We're all gonna celebrate together. As of recording, I have read 100 books in 2025. My previous target for this year, as with previous years, was 52 books, 52 of them. And I've done 100 books, 100 of them. Today, in another episode of Show and Tell, I'm going to be talking about books, but not just any books in particular. I'm going to be talking about my 10 top favourite books of 2025 so far. I've still got 3 weeks left, not giving up at 100. I'm now going for 104 because tidily that's double what I initially set out to do. You're going to sit and you're going to listen and we're going to have a grand old time together. Welcome back to Show and Tell. It's episode 2, baby! I love talking about books. It's literally my full-time job. I don't know if I mentioned it, you guys, but I am a Waterstones bookseller. I literally get paid to sell these. That's what I'm gonna do to you today. Get marketed to. Welcome to the capitalist hamster wheel. I'm gonna start with number 10 and I'm gonna ascend because that builds suspense. If you work with me or you know me closely, you probably can already assume what number 1 is, but don't spoil it in the comments for the people who don't know. We're trying to have fun here. My 10th favourite book of 2025 is Odyssey by Stephen Fry. All of the books are going to be flipped in this video. You're just going to have to deal with it. It's because I like my face better when it's flipped. That's the reason why. Odyssey was a 4-star book. A lot of my colleagues believe that what I would give a 4-star is what a normal person would probably give a 5-star, but I'm incredibly picky. This was book 69 of 2025. I read it in August. I read it on holiday. I'm a big fan of ancient Greece. I'm a big fan of Stephen Fry and the way that he writes. I read Mythos and Heroes in Troy, but I read Mythos in particular on holiday with my parents in the same location that we always go on holiday, but I did it years and years ago, and it was sort of the one that introduced me to ancient Greece and to Stephen Fry's writing and made me fall in love with the genre. So it felt quite like a nice full circle moment to finish the series in the same place that I started it, looking out to sea and thinking about krakens. This was a pretty fitting and satisfying end. So Mythos, you get all of the introduction, basic myths, how all the gods came to be, essentially, starting with Kronos and him eating all his babies, Zeus killing his dad, Aphrodite being born of the ocean and a bunch of sperm. Yeah, you get all of that shit in Mythos. It's one of my favourite books of all time. It's a 4.5 star. Heroes, you get introduced to like the big human names in ancient Greece. And then in Troy, obviously, you get the Trojan War. 4th book is Odyssey. In the original Homer story, you only get Odysseus's journey home. In Stephen Fry's version, you get lots of different journeys home. All of the different maps as well. Agamemnon's journey home. In this household, we hate Agamemnon. He's a bitch. You know what? I love when you open a book and you get a bunch of maps. Menelaus and Helen also kind of went all over the place. So you get all of the different stories. It's not just Odysseus focused. Obviously, that is a big chunk of the book, but also you get pictures. I just love ancient Greece, you guys. It takes a lot for a book about ancient Greece to not sit well with me. Ithaca by Claire North, where I was like, how have you managed to make ancient Greece boring? These guys are all fucking and fighting and the gods are turning into swans. There's so much fun to be had. I have one very specific bugbear about retellings. My one qualm is when talking about Penelope in Ithaca with all of the suitors. In the original text, it very explicitly states that there are 108 suitors who invade the palace at Ithaca and are vying for Penelope's hand in marriage. That's a very specific number. In different versions I've read of the story, they say hundreds or more than 100, and I'm like, just be specific. It's important because then Odysseus and Telemachus come home and they kill them all. If you're saying hundreds, that could be 950 dudes, which is a lot more than 108. And I knew I could count on Stephen Fry to say 108. I just hit myself in the face with the book. I let out an audible cheer. I'm gonna get 108 tattooed on me, and I'm only kind of joking about that. As with all of these top 10 books, I only had a couple of very minor qualms. The top con that I had was that I knew most of it already. I think maybe it's less rip-roaringly funny as Mythos. In 10th place, we have Odyssey by Stephen Fry. Moving on. My 9th favourite book of 2025 is Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton. I really like biographies. I don't usually go for a nature biography, and that is technically what this is, because it's about bunny rabbits. Let's be specific. It's about leverets. Chloe Dalton was out in the countryside and she stumbled upon a leveret, which is the name of a baby hare. My first pets were rabbits. They were called Coffee and Tea. They both died in very gruesome ways. I have a special place in my heart for bunnies. The writing is just beautiful. I was honestly a bit stunned by how lyrical and captivating this writing was. Look how fucking wham those margins are. Also, very important, something that appeals to me, pictures of bunnies. Look at that little guy on the back. Dalton's very good at doing accurate, succinct, descriptive metaphors. Even though I couldn't see the hares in front of me, I could picture exactly how they were behaving, because a lot of the behaviours of these hares was quite human. You could just picture it. I found it really interesting to learn about different British wildlife and the different laws around them. I did expect to cry. If I had cried, it would have been a 4.5. It didn't have the ending I expected it to, and that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I was expecting the hare to die. The ending sort of felt a little bit inconclusive. For some people, it's probably the preferable ending because, like, you don't want something big and sad. As we progress through this list, you're going to start to gather that I like a book that makes me cry, and I really expected to be like gut punch, the hare is dead, misery is all around us, life is a pit kind of final 50 pages, and it didn't do that, which is not necessarily a bad thing. If you're not wanting to cry about hares dying, then this is the book for you. It's also just like fantastic writing. My 9th favourite book of 2025, Raising a Hare by Chloe Dalton. Let's move on, shall we? My 8th favourite book of 2025 is A Family Matter. Do not be fooled. Yes, this is a paperback copy, but this is not yet out in paperback. It is just in hardback. I've got a proof copy because I'm a bookseller. Back to general fiction. You get dual timelines of 1982 and 2022. It is just a story of domestic life, family behaviours. What I recall is that the book starts with the father getting a cancer diagnosis. He's got a really close relationship with his daughter and basically nobody else. That's in 2022, and then in 1982 you learn about the dad and his previous wife and how they started dating, and then why the wife isn't in the present day timeline. It's queer, it's sapphic, it's heartbreaking. It's a really good example of characters being fallible and doing things that frustrate. You have sympathy for everyone involved. It's nuanced. People are falling in love with people they shouldn't do, and then getting married and having children with people that they don't love because they feel obligated. And it is painful. It is gorgeously written. Just like with Raising a Hare, if it had made me cry, it would have been a 4.5, because story-wise, this is so solid. The perspective changes are so tidy and so seamless, which is so hard to do whilst also keeping the characters distinguishable, and she does that fantastically. Big font, big margins, lovely, lovely stuff. It's one of those books that you pick up intending to read 20 pages and then you literally physically can't put it down. And I know that's a little bit cliched, but it's the fucking truth. That is my 8th favourite book of 2025, A Family Matter by Claire Lynch. Well done to you. My 7th favourite book of 2025, I cannot physically show you. Ow, my elbow's crunched. I can't physically show you a copy of it because I don't have one, but my mother does because I borrowed it from her. The book that came 7th is Hungry by Grace Dent. We're back on biographies, baby. Grace Dent is a food critic and a food writer. She often crops up on MasterChef. She is now co-hosting Celebrity MasterChef. I love Grace Dent. I have always loved Grace Dent. She's just a bundle of joy. Earlier on in the year, read a book called A Woman's Place is in the Kitchen by Sally Abbey. When I was reading Hungry, that was what I expected when I read A Woman's Place is in the Kitchen. It was so personal. There was so much of Grace in the book. It was warm, it was sad, it was human, it was funny. She was reminiscing on her experience growing up with food, with her family, in a place that I didn't grow up in a time that I wasn't around for. It just felt like I was there, like I knew all of the things she was thinking and feeling. Despite what you might expect from what is technically a food biography, food is less of a central theme and more of like a touchstone current throughout the book. It is at the heart of all of the various moments of her life growing up, but it's not like the central focus. It's always there, but kind of in the periphery. The way that Grace writes, she manages to articulate how my brain works, the way she phrases things, and her sense of humour feels so much like my own. She's got another book called Comfort Eating, which is top of my Christmas list for this year. Yes, I've got lots and lots of books on my 2025 Christmas list, and you might be thinking, Abby, that's crazy. You literally sell books, you get a big old discount at work. I don't care. I always want more books. I always want more. Next year I'll do 200. Yeah, don't hold me to that, please. I immediately regretted it the second I said it. I'm aiming for 52, I'm always aiming for 52. Well done, Grace Dent. I can't wait to consume the rest of your media. Okay, my 6th favourite book of 2025 is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feydeau. If you're looking for this at Waterstones Piccadilly, we've got loads of it in stock. I've got a proof copy of it. This book is a raucous delight. I was genuinely sitting in the staff room giggling. I was going back up to the shop floor, itching to go on my breaks so I could go and carry on reading it. It wasn't long enough. I wanted more. Big font, big margins. It was extremely violent and gross in a delightful way. This isn't a spoiler because it says it literally on like the first page, so I'm going to read it to you because it's pretty indicative of what the rest of the book is like. Page 1, you open it, you get a little picture, and under said picture it says, "In 3 months everyone in this house will be dead." And it's true. Having done an English degree, you get forced to read a lot of old boring shit, and with the word Victorian stamped on this, I was hesitant because that is not an era of literature that I find interesting at all. It's bleak, it's miserable. You're on the moors. Why are they always on the moors? Abandon any previous thoughts you may have had about the Victorian era because this was just so much fun. Winifred goes to this house to be the governess for these 2 privileged brats. Basically, by Christmas, everyone is dead because of her. It's just violent and it's silly, unlike anything I'd ever read before. If you've seen the film Bottoms, very good film, vibe-wise quite similar. It's such a nice feeling to feel giddy about reading a book. I was on the tube at 7 o'clock in the morning, laughing out loud. I must have looked fucking deranged. This was the 44th book I read this year. It feels like 100 years ago that I read this. My 6th favourite book of 2025, Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feydeau. My 5th favourite book of 2025, again, sorry, apologies. I don't have a copy of it, so I can't show you. Please don't be mad. Book number 5 of 2025 is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This was not a book that I was expecting to love quite as much as I did. One of my colleagues, Drew, and I have been sort of exchanging books back and forth throughout the year. He brought me Station 11 and he said, "You will like this." And I said, "This is in the sci-fi fantasy section. Stop trying to get me to like sci-fi fantasy." It was just fantastic. Not sci-fi fantasy at all. I would say it's speculative fiction. So believable, scarily so. Station 11 starts with a performance of King Lear, wherein which the main guy playing Lear on stage is this big famous actor, and this is his big role. Mid-production of King Lear, he has a big old heart attack and he dies on stage. And the expectation, because this guy is so famous and so reputable, is that the next day, headline news would be that he's died on stage in the middle of a production of King Lear. However, headline news the next day, big old fucking pandemic. She just crafts this really beautiful web of characters. 2 timelines. One timeline starts with the production of King Lear. Second timeline's 20 years in the future. The girl who's playing Cordelia in the first timeline, who's like 5 or 6, is then the main character 20 years in the future. Does that make sense? So clearly well planned. I love when you can see that an author has taken so much time and care. I have read other books of this sort of genre. The one I'm going to bring up, which a lot of people will probably get mad at me for, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. It had a lot of noise about it and I went to finally read it earlier this year. My expectations were really high and then I got let down. Station 11, however, did exactly what I wanted from I Who Have Never Known Men. My 4th favourite book of 2025 is Sunstruck by William Rayford Hunter. It's still just in hardback, but I've got a proof copy, baby! I want to say I read this in February because I've recommended it so much. Still so fresh in my mind. Let me give you my official Waterstones bookseller pitch. Okay, here we go. The first half of this book is a sort of Saltburn, Brideshead Revisited-esque pastiche, in that this young black guy gets the opportunity to go to the south of France to spend the summer holidays with his uni friend and her family at their summer home. Raucous, debaucherous parties ensue. Such a good start to a book, but I got to the midpoint and I was like, yes, this is really, really good. I'm really enjoying myself, but I've seen similar stuff before. However, second half of the book, they come back to London. It manages to handle a lot of very big themes like race, like class, wealth, sexuality in a very delicate and non-preachy way. It has possibly the best last 2 pages of any book I have ever read in my entire life. That felt important to read. My 3rd favourite book of 2025, I gave it 4 stars. It was the 34th book I read this year, and that is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. I previously read Virgin Suicides in August 2024, and I gave Virgin Suicides a 2. I remember thinking, I can tell this guy can write, great, but the perspective of virgin suicides is not working for me at all. I wasn't rushing to read anything else by him. Really early this year, I got into a conversation with a customer who basically recommended Middlesex, and then when I told her I was dubious, she said, good, if you didn't like virgin suicides, you'll probably like Middlesex instead. And I went, okay, I'll take your word for it. It's brilliant. It's actually quite a hard book to recommend because people ask what it's about, and I'm like, it's just a really thorough, meticulous, in-depth dive into a family, basically. You get grandparent to grandchild in such detail. It's a character-led book. The grandparent, the parent, the child living their respective lives. It's very reminiscent of the book that I'm gonna get to at number 1. It was a little difficult to get into to begin with because, as we know, I love a book with big margins. I love big font, and this is kind of just like a wall of text, which was a lot for my tiny little pea brain. I love when you're reading fiction and you're actually doubting whether it's fiction or not because of how thorough it was and how detailed. To begin with, it felt a bit stodgy and a little bit slow, but once you're in it, you are firmly in it. In second place, receiving my silver medal. This was the second book I read in 2025. This is now 98 books ago. Penance by Eliza Clark. Since buying this book, I have met Eliza Clark and she signed it for me and she drew a duck. Even 2/3 of the way through, I was stunned that it was fiction. This is written as if it's true crime, but it is fiction. If I'm misremembering some of the explicit details of this book, please forgive me because it was 98 books ago. From what I remember, is a true crime fiction book. 3 girls, teenage girls, who murder a 4th girl that they go to school with. You get so much world building about this seaside tourist attraction town and about all of the various family members of each of the girls who did the murder and the girl who got murdered, and about the night itself and the weeks leading up to the girl getting murdered. I found it so difficult to fathom that this wasn't true because how is your brain able to create so much? This freaked me out so much. It gave me panic dreams. It was literally horrifying at points. Well done, Eliza Clark. The ending, I won't spoil it for you. I was surprised. It felt like a real M. Night Shyamalan twist. It reminded me of Lock Henry from Black Mirror. My tea has gone cold because I made it 52 minutes and 22 seconds ago. I'm sort of infamous at work for having one 5-star book. I have read it before 2025. I first read this book when I was 17. I've not stopped talking about it since. My top book, my only 5-star book, is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It's a little divisive. It was my 100th book of 2025. I read it the first time around in 12 days. I was crying so hard for the last 200 pages that I couldn't actually see. This book is harrowing. It's exhausting. Whenever I see anyone even touching the book, I'm like, hey, that's my favourite book of all time. Do you know the can of worms you've opened up here? I wasn't planning on rereading it. It is a masterpiece. Obviously, we've got this gorgeous special edition that came out this year because it has, believe it or not, been 10 years since A Little Life was originally published. 2 reasons why I reread this book. Gorgeous special edition, and I managed to do 100 books this year, and I thought, I'm gonna do something special for my 100th book of 2025. It's gotta be this. I've been talking this big talk about A Little Life being the best book that's ever been written for the last year at work, and now I've reread it and I've reaffirmed the fact that I'm right all of the time. This is 5 stars. It's the only 5-star book. A lot of people have a problem with it being torture porn. I have enough critical thinking skills to know that this isn't for everyone, but it's for me. Going into the reread, especially having seen the play, I wasn't expecting to cry. Certain plot points I was expecting. However, there's a moment in literally the last 5 pages. There was a really small moment that I had forgotten about because it was minuscule. It was just like a paragraph that just set me off. To be able to still have that much of an emotional response when you know what's gonna happen is really impressive. Since having read A Little Life the first time around, Middlesex is the only book that's made me feel the same in terms of how detailed and how thorough it was. You're with Jude, Willem, JB and Malcolm from their early mid-ish 20s, and you're with them for their whole lives. It's a character-led narrative. It's not plot point, here's a plot point, here's another plot point. Like, it is just these characters and their relationships with each other. Yes, Jude and Willem are definitely the main 2 characters. Before JB and Malcolm, I would argue Harold is the next most important character. He is also my favourite in the book, and he was my favourite when I watched the play. Prose does not have to be poetic to be beautiful. At no point is this written in such a way that is metaphorical or written like poetry. It's not. It's so straightforward. The craftsmanship of each and every sentence in this book is astounding. You'd think that with a book of this size, nearly 800 pages worth of text, you'd think that maybe some of it could be fucking trimmed, but no, I don't think a single word was wasted. Who cares if it's a doorstop? My number one book of 2025, my number one book of my entire life. I'm never gonna shut up about it. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Thank you for making your special edition smooth. I have now been filming for over an hour. My tea has gone cold. I would like you to read all of these, please. Thank you so much for watching. My wrist is hurting from holding all of these. If you've enjoyed this video, tell me. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you so much. I'm gonna go and drink my cold tea. Okay, so my 8th favourite... Whoa. That's crazy. That's got to go in the bloopers. Post-credit burp scene. If you've made it this far, that was a pretty good burp. Good enough that I'm actually keeping it in the video.